So it sounds
I'm
like you
just a
guys have
face,
done
man.
it's a good face. It's a good face. But we got to be more than that, right? We just got to strive
We gotta be more.
for, got to be more. But podcast is something that I love and I enjoy, and I'm kind of obsessed with. What are some of the podcasts that you guys really enjoy that you're like, oh, I would love to go along those lines, or I would love to
Great
just have
question.
those kind of
That is a good question.
conversations? Because I know mine. Like I know which ones I'm obsessed
Jordan,
with. So.
you go.
All right. So, well, the first thing that showed me what a podcast can do and be was that first season of Serial, right? Like that whole true crime wave, right? With that whole, I forget his name. Anyway, that whole murder mystery, not mystery, but true crime thing. I was like, whoa, this was like when our great grandparents listened to the radio, right? Like that never made sense to me, or just something I never experienced with interest, right? Who wants to just listen, And that was the first thing that I listened to. I was like, this is dope. This makes sense. I can see what someone can do with that, especially the train. Listening to the same playlist all the time could be mind numbing, right? You love it. I love music, right? As a dancer, of course, but finding something that I was like engaged with and creating questions in my mind or trying to be part of the conversation that they were having, I was like, oh, this is dope. Podcasts are dope. And then I fell in love with like the long format interviews. So I really enjoy some of the sports ones. Like I think the JJ Redick podcast is great if you're a basketball fan. Especially the last, not only that, but like he's doing it in season. So like things are happening, in games and throughout the season. And then he has a guy on there like Joel Embiid, and he could ask him straight up, like, hey, there's some serious MVP, conversations about you. How do you think about that? How do you feel or whatever? And I'm a Duke basketball like fanatic. So
The family is for sure.
yeah, exactly. So the JJ Redick podcast I love. And then there's this guy who does Armchair Expert. His name is Dak Shepard. He's the actor. He's the guy that's married to Kristen Bell, the young lady from Frozen. Yeah, so Dax has one of the biggest, most popular.
That's right.
Yeah, he was like on Punk'd is where he started, and then The
He
Ranch on Netflix. Yeah.
I'll have to check that out because I have seen it, but I haven't downloaded it yet.
Yeah. Okay, so let me give you a quick pitch on it. So the thing with Dax is, one, he's a recovering addict, right? Like he had a serious drug problem, whatever, and comes from a kid who was molested as a child, as well as has dyslexia. And he's very open and honest about those things and experiences. So those early episodes of that podcast were long format interviews with his peers, actors, musicians, people we know, right? So like some of your favorite actors and things. Kevin Hart's been on there. What's this guy's name? From Law and Order, the heavy guy. And he'll let you pitch your thing or whatever you're promoting, but then they'll start talking about each other's career and things like that. And then you say, oh, I had this outbreak on and I yelled at somebody, and he'll ask their deeper question, like, but what did that do with your relationship with your mother, or this or that? And like, why does your drug addiction problem stem from this? And like, he's just very open and honest, and that I really enjoyed. And I was like, yo, this is dope, because some of these actors have never been asked these questions or have never related as much to the person that's interviewing them. And I fell in love with it. And it's called Armchair Expert because he feels like he's kind of an expert on everything. He's like, oh, I'm a know-it-all kind of thing. So he calls himself an armchair expert. And I highly recommend that podcast.
And that's
so those are the kinds of podcasts I enjoy, like those long format ones.
That's what I think podcasting does, as opposed to, say, the radio, right? It allows you to talk to someone that you relate to. And it doesn't even matter their level of quote unquote popularity. You see these super famous people go on dude's podcast that have a couple hundred or a couple thousand subscribers, and they might have like a couple million, right? But like asking those tough questions, like how did that affect your family? How did that affect your mom? Right? That's not something you see in the news when you're watching the news and like an
Entertainment
interview.
Tonight.
Right.
TMI
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yep.
TMZ.
It's definitely more a personal medium for sure.
Yes.
It allows you to be, but I think it's almost that last untouchable medium because it's not really the audience will dictate your ratings and whether or not you should be canceled or not. I think just like it should be, instead of like one particular group is going to try to cancel you. Like there's no trying to do that if they like you.
You don't stumble across a podcast. You make a choice to listen to the podcast.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And it's not, oh, I heard this cool beat and now I want to listen to everything that this artist makes. No, you got to get into a podcast to decide whether you like it or not.
Yep.
You know, and I enjoy that. Like I make the choice to keep
Jordan,
my brain active.
Do you watch or listen to most of your podcasts?
That's a great question. It depends. I would say 60-40, and 60-40 is listening.
Because you can multitask.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So like getting in a car and it's like, oh, it's going to take me an hour to get to my parents. Oh, you know, Joe Rogan dropped a new episode. Yep. I know that this is going to get me through the whole drive. No commercials, no nothing. I am actively into this conversation and it may take me anywhere. And I think it just in my age right now, like I want to learn more about myself and I want to learn more about other people. So I'd rather that than like, yeah, exactly. So I love it.
What about you, Brandon? What are your top three pods or top two if JRE's up there?
This one would be number one. Number two.
You have never listened to a podcast that you didn't edit.
I have not.
You didn't edit. That's great.
I can't stand hearing my voice, really. And when I listen to the ones that we've done, I was like, oh, that was stupid. You know, I'm always critiquing instead of trying to enjoy what it is that the people are saying. So yeah, you're right. I don't like listening to it. I did the same thing, like, you know, when I was doing some acting and commercials or whatever. I never watched the commercials.
Do you notice yourself critiquing other podcasts though? Or like,
absolutely.
Or like, I like that, or I didn't like that type thing.
It's mostly that. It's mostly, I don't like critiquing in a negative way because you never know what's going on in someone's head or in someone's podcast, what they were thinking. It might be an artistic thing or it might just be something happening with the recording, whatever. But I do like takeaways. I definitely, man, that was a good one. That was a good question. Or I like the way he did that. And I know we've had these conversations before trying to hone and really get good at what we're doing here. So we definitely do our homework in that regard. But I mean, as far as listening to them, I'm big into, there's one that I like, Earn Your Leisure. It's these brothers.
Oh yeah, the two guys. Yeah.
Yeah. And they talk from like a really grassroots bootstrap business side, guerrilla business, nothing illegal, but I don't know, it might be someone's doing something.
No, but just smart, logical choices that people aren't thinking about.
Yeah, smart, logical, financial choices that these guys that they throw out there, and they interview people, and they kind of talk things through. I like that one. And again, it's more intimate. It's as if I'm in the room with a couple of buddies of mine, and that's why I kind of like the podcast game. And I listen to them. JRE, of course, just for the more entertainment value, and you can touch people that you've never.
That dude's amount of knowledge really pushes a lot of those conversations.
Yeah, and he does his homework. Well, when you get 30 million a year podcasting, you need to be doing some homework. And
do you think I don't know that he does. He might do homework on some, but I don't know that he does homework on all of them.
I think
he just knows things.
I think he does a lot with himself. Yeah, he knows things himself, and I think because he's been wrong, and he doesn't mind being wrong, and he's had guests that check him on his shit, and he's like, oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, you're right. You know, so I think he's honed his skill as someone that interviews someone else and how to just be a better interviewer. And I think that's what I like about Joe Rogan. Yep.
No, he covers so many different topics and he lets them go deep, even if he doesn't understand them or agree with them. Like he'll challenge them in a respectful way. It's not like you're an idiot, but so tell me, why do you think that? And then, well, the facts say this, or I heard that, you know, and again, that's the long form versus the CNN Fox News clip where you have 30 seconds to annihilate your guest and make you sound right and make them sound wrong.
Yeah,
So
yeah. What about you, Tyler? What are your favorites?
I'll throw two out there. Besides Jerry, he's a regular on my playlist. The Matt Josh Savan podcast. It's a CrossFit podcast. So if you're not into CrossFit, you probably aren't gonna care.
This one got fired, right?
He got fired. So Savan he was the media director at CrossFit for a lot of years, and then when they just had hired a new CEO, but I like him because I like his interviewing style, because he's that guy that asks, like, how does your mother feel, right? So I like hearing those types of questions, and more it's me like taking notes than anything. But the other two people that are on the podcast are Matt Frazier, he's won the CrossFit Games 5 consecutive times. And the other one's Josh Bridges, a former Navy SEAL and a competitor in CrossFit.
So that second guy, that's that CrossFit guy. Like, we all know the one that won it.
Yep.
Okay,
well,
got
you may know Froning also.
Froning.
Oh, no, I'm talking Froning. Froning. Okay.
And
sorry.
and that was the other thing too, is there's some beef between Froning and Frazier, which kind of made it interesting. And Frazier was just on the Joe Rogan podcast a couple weeks ago, and he said some things that pissed a lot of people off. So they address it on there as well. So I guess that's like my quote unquote drama for the week when that comes out. And then the other one I just found the other day was the TB12 podcast.
Oh yeah, Tom Brady.
Yep. It's not Tom Brady. He's not the host, but it's obviously his brand. And the athletes they have on there and the questions they ask, it's like an hour and a half podcast, and it's thoroughly engaging.
Is it good? Really?
It is good.
I have it in my list and downloaded a couple, the first few, but I haven't tried them yet.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Can I make one honorable mention that's kind of like out of the pack?
100%.
Because again, I'm obsessed with the long format interview, and I think I have the personality for it, so I love it. But it's not really a podcast. You guys watch Hot Ones on YouTube?
Yes, the wings.
It's the show with hot questions and even hotter wings. My man Sean Evans is one of the best interviewers and researchers around. Highly recommend it. It's a simple concept.
It's
done
hilarious.
To perfection. It is just done to perfection. So it's him in a room with some celebrity actor, scientist, whoever it is, like Bill Nye the Science Guy has been on there, the whole gamut of people. You sit down, we're going to eat 10 chicken wings from left to right, starting in a lower level of spiciness all the way to the highest level that they have.
A horrible idea.
And it's simple, but it is done and he eats them with you.
No.
And yeah, man. And it's not a podcast, but it's on YouTube. And every time a new episode drops, it is fantastic.